60 Minutes with Angela starts right now.
We still see the bitterness of the last political dispensation affecting our developmental efforts in this new dispensation. And as long as we have this carryover, we're not going to be able to make progress. We should put those things behind and deal with the issues.
Hello and welcome. This is 60 Minutes with me, Angela Ajitumobi. Thank you for joining me on the program today. My host today is the Chief Executive Officer and Editor-in-Chief of National Daily Newspaper and National Standard Magazine. So, join me after the break as I count down 60 Minutes with Sylvester Ebhodaghe, the publisher of National Daily Newspaper and National Standard Magazine. Welcome back. Welcome, Mr. Ebhodaghe. Thank you very much for coming on the program. I was looking at the headlines and I thought I want to start with your headlines. You know, your paper always excites me. What do you mean by plot to remove Saraki thickens? What do you mean remove? If he didn't do anything, would he be at the Code of Conduct Tribunal? If he didn't declare what he was supposed to declare, or he declared more than he was supposed to do, no one would be going after him.
You see, our politics in Nigeria today is a case of the more you look, the less you see. Yeah, I mean, the point is clear. If he did the crime, he should be willing to do the time.
Yes.
Like they say in places like the US. But we are quick to look at some other dynamics, some other factors that are at play as far as this Saraki issue is concerned.
Yes.
We cannot forget the fact that his party, the ruling party, did not want him to be the president of the Senate. He went against the position of his party to stage what has been largely described as a political coup or a legislative coup.
Yes. Is that something that we should applaud, that a party upon whose platform you ascended to the Senate now issues guidelines or instructions as to who the principal officers of the Senate should be, and then you choose for your whatever reason, ambition or whatever, to go against party directive?
That in itself is arguable. I mean, depending on which side of the divide you decide to look at the issues from.
Yes.
If you feel that your party is engaging in activities that are undemocratic, and as a Democrat, you have a responsibility to step up and correct that anomaly. And he has argued that that was exactly what he did. Don't forget where they are coming from.
Yes.
Now, this is a theory that many have not really considered closely. This theory is such that there was CPC, you had ACN, these are the two major opposition parties at the time. And then there was an implosion in PDP, which brought about the new PDP.
Yes.
And the new PDP had former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, former Rivers Governor Rotimi Amechi, had Saraki, Okonso, the guy from Sokoto,
Babangida
Aliyu. And these guys came together and formed the new PDP with Baraje as the national or the interim chairman.
Yes.
And then they joined forces with the CPC and the ACN, and APC
was born.
Yes. Expectedly, these are the three leading stakeholders in the new mega party, as it were. And they went into the elections. with, like a zero-sum understanding. When we win this thing, this is what we're going to do.
Right.
The presidential candidate had come from CPC, and his running mate had come from the ACN. And after the polls having emerged victorious, it was clear that the number one and number two positions were taken,
yes.
one by CPC and one by ACN. And the number three position, which is the position of the president of the Senate, the new PDP guys said, this should be ours. This is for all that we did. We brought the money, we brought the numbers.
We brought 5 states.
We brought 5 states. We did not only bring 5 states to you, we depleted what they had. And we had some of our members stay in there to fight them to a standstill. And there were even more. Don't forget, one of them had stated that there were actually more than 5.
There were 7 to start.
There were 7.
Yes.
So there were others who, though remained in the PDP, but were working for this interest. So when eventually this was at play, and the leadership of the party insisted that the position of the president of the Senate and that of the speaker should also be shared between CPC
and ACN.
And ACN, this guy said, hey, come on, this is not democracy anymore. And they went all out and said, okay, so let's meet on the field.
At the election.
At the election, while the APC guys, or those who were being projected by the APC leadership, and when we say the APC leadership here, you must also understand that it was a section of the APC leadership. They were not unanimous.
Because I keep saying that there are about 4 souls in APC. And possibly, maybe only 1 soul was insisting on this list. Mm-hmm. What were the other 3 supposed to do?
Because they had certain understandings. Certain sectors were going to be left to the control of some of these souls. Certain portfolios in the cabinet were already being seeded, as it were.
And these agreements, correct me if I'm wrong, are not normally written. They could be oral agreements. Mm-hmm. And hopefully everyone is standing by their word, because your word is supposed to be your bond.
Yes, but it's unfortunate that, again, our politics are being run the way we are seeing them playing out today. Yes. All over the world, certainly, yes. Political parties are run on agreements. Certainly, people who have come together must agree, and they expect that those agreements will be binding. But the question is, was there an agreement on this? I'm not a member of the APC. I wasn't there when these meetings
held. Are you a member of the PDP?
Neither am I a member of the PDP. That's what makes it interesting for me. I sit and look at both parties and tell you what we have seen.
Yes.
And which our views are largely independent.
And you have seen that there is a plot to remove Saraki.
Right now, yes. I mean, take it or leave it, but that is what is playing out.
What of my argument that if he didn't do something, there would be nothing to hang on his neck?
That's the point. Now, I'm not trying to hold brief for him.
Yes.
But we were all also here. We saw petitions and counter petitions written against certain individuals. The former governor of Rivers.
Yes.
The former governor of Lagos. In fact, Mr. Deba Adeniro of Kakol so screamed to a point he practically lost his voice. Why is Saraki's case different? And I'm thinking that if the APC does not manage this Saraki issue well, because their failure to manage it internally has resulted in PDP emerging as the Deputy Senate President. We should not have been in an ideal situation.
Yes.
But because of the division in the House,
yes,
now the PDP has produced the Deputy Senate President. And the PDP practically decided who became the leadership of the various chambers. And that should let the APC know that if they are not careful, something worse could happen.
Now, what about those who say that the Senate President was quick to eyeball the party? It was early days yet. Showing your hand in that way showed a measure of disloyalty, especially with Mr. President. Did you think it was too early in the day for him to go against the party like that? After all, the Speaker, Dogara, ended up conceding some of those positions. Femi Budgetary eventually ended up as House Leader. Why didn't Senator Saraki concede something, at least, to the party?
From all information available to me,
yes,
I think Lawan, to him, it was either Senate presidency or nothing else. I also want us to try and spare a thought for Saraki's position. This was a man who argued that his party was engaging in an act that to him was undemocratic.
What was that act?
Which is trying to, as it were, shortchange a critical stakeholding bloc in the coalition.
That's the new PDP.
The alliance, the new PDP. In other words, he also represented the bloc. Don't forget, he was chairman Nigerian Governors Forum. When he was living there, he practically brought out Amici and mobilized support for Amici to emerge. And when the former President Goodluck Jonathan and his group didn't want Amici to remain as the chairman of that forum, he also undercut his party, as it were, and swung it in favor of Amici.
Yes.
So some of these guys have played a major role because
they've contributed.
They contributed. I mean, you cannot rule out the fact. When you look at the figures, however they came, whether it is the near 100%, near perfect election in Kano or the one from Kwara, we saw the hand of these guys in this election. And they were saying, hey, this is what is in it for us.
We brought the numbers to the table.
We should. So to say that it is an act of disloyalty, I may not say that way. I think it is good for our democracy, because that was the same mistake that the other party, the PDP, made, where it never allowed internal democracy. It never allowed the people to agree. And take a position. I was told that it was a mock election. They saw the figures that it was not in favor of their candidate.
Yes.
And that's why they said, okay,
and
all
it was
of them
unprecedented. No one had ever conducted primaries into the Senate president's seat within a party. After all, once elections are concluded, it sort of goes out of the hands of the party. It's now up to the senators within their chamber
to choose
their leaders.
But again, let's go back.
Yes.
Remember, in 2011,
yes,
when the PDP wanted a candidate as speaker. But the same thing played out. The same opposition picked a candidate in the PDP that was not the choice of the party. So where I leave you to make your conclusions as far as that's concerned. So but I think they were simply being served
with the same panache. Okay, are you saying surely by now the party should have moved on and learned to accept the situation in the Senate as far as the leadership of the Senate is concerned? Are you saying the party should accept that and swallow its pride and learn to work with Senator Saraki's Senate?
Ideally, that's what the party should have done. And in fact, the party was advised by well-meaning citizens to look beyond Saraki's emergence and Dogara's emergence and work with these guys. They were all leading figures in the build-up to the elections. They all played their roles. Why not work with them and then get them to do what you want them to do? But now, whatever it is that is between them, I'm just hoping that the party is smart enough not to allow this issue consume the party, because before you know it, you're likely going to have an opposition party produce the leadership of the red chambers. That's where they're likely going to find themselves.
I thought the APC had the most number of senators in the Senate.
Don't forget, for the period Saraki has been there, he's been able to build a followership. And you'll be shocked. And now this is arguable. That some of the election results, as far as the Senate is concerned, that have been decided by the appeal court and lately by the Supreme Court in the case of Anambra, where it decided the true leadership of the PDP in the state. And now that is being interpreted to mean that the primary is conducted by the other executive of the party that produced the lawmakers we have today.
Senator Stella Udua and Andy
Uba and
Uche Kunefe.
Uche's case was decided differently.
Okay.
But these other two. Now, what is being alleged is that this is another strategy by the ruling party to decimate the PDP hold in the Senate, so that should they have reasons to have another election, they would have
the numbers.
But that is neither here nor there. I mean, I leave that to the viewers to make up their minds as to where these theories actually stand as far as these issues are concerned. But I am of the opinion that, we don't want to see the voice of Jacob in the hand of Esau in the Saraki issue. It's unfortunate he is having to face this trial, but the trial should be allowed to follow due process, the rule of law, where if he is guilty, he is guilty. Some senators have come to say, we are going to stand by him, he's going to go through the process. Should he be convicted, then we would have to accept the verdict of the tribunal. But until then, he remains the president of the Senate, and we are standing by him. But there's another group that is saying that you are going to be standing trial alone. You do not have the moral justification to continue to remain as president of the Senate. Now that is the group, from what we have gathered. In the coming days, you would see them stage walkouts. They will boycott sessions that will be presided over by the Senate President Saraki. And all of this will create serious crisis in the red chambers. And where that would lead us, I don't know at the moment. And I don't think that is what we should be dealing with when we have, a monumental challenge in the 2016 budget. And as we speak, the budget is neither here nor there. I think there are more fundamental issues that the government of the day should settle down and re-strategize, because you are dealing with the leadership issues in the Senate. You are also dealing with the non-perfect or shoddy budget packaging. Where that leaves us right now, I do not know.
Join us again after the break.
Nice question.
Angela, that's a great question.
It's a good question.
It is difficult to respond to that question.
That is a serious question. Angela, that is a very great question.
Great question, Angela.
Angela, that's a very difficult question.
That's a great question, Angela.
Okay, that's a great question.
Angela, that's a tough one for me.
That's a good question. Good question.
I love to ask questions. I think it's what I do best. You see, I think that the fastest way to learn anything is to ask questions. The right questions, that is. Questions that help you get to the heart of the matter.
60 Minutes with Angela. Again, answers to every question you always wanted to ask.
Welcome back. If you've just joined us, it's 60 Minutes with me, Angela Ajitumobi. On my hot seat today, Sylvester Ebhodaghe is the publisher of the National Daily Newspaper and National Standard Magazine. Before we went on the break, we were talking about Saraki, and you said we have to be very careful because with the situation with the budget right now, this administration obviously needs all the support it can get within the Senate. How will Saraki's trial on March 10 at the Code of Conduct Tribunal, how will that have any bearing on anything to do with the budget?
This budget issue is an unfortunate position we have found ourselves as a nation.
Do you believe in a budget mafia?
At our stage of political development, we always have those issues to contend with. But where I find it difficult to accept that conspiracy theory is because on assumption of office, the president did say that one of the reasons for the delay in appointing ministers was because a template for running the administration was being developed.
Right.
And that he was not in a hurry to make these appointments because he wanted this template to be in place before the appointment is done. Of course, while that was happening, he eulogized the civil servants, and which for me was beautiful.
Yes.
Where he remarked that the ministers were even talking about are all noisemakers.
Yes.
And the real guys that do the job
are the civil
servants.
Are the civil
servants. So long the civil servants were there running the system, that governance was still intact.
We saw meetings with himself and the permanent secretaries.
Some of them were replaced. So we are where we are. In December, Ari got wind of this. It was the end of November, and we did a story then that the presidency was in a fix over 2016 budget. I got several calls from some people up there, this is not fair, what do you mean, how could you say we are in a fix? Because of what we knew. But they hurriedly put this document together, and then what followed. What the president presented disappeared, and another one resurfaced with the same overall total sum.
Yes.
But certain departments and
different distribution.
There was a redistribution actually. And for me, that is a pointer to the fact that something is wrong with that template. it lets you know that the problem is with the system. That means nothing has changed. The same system that has been in operation in the past is the same system that has produced the same budget. In fact, the former CBN governor, Professor Charles Soludo, actually remarked that it was the same template that Jonathan administration used. They simply just padded it and submitted the same. There was nothing new that they were bringing to the table. This is where we have found ourselves.
Yes.
Where some are thinking, okay, is it the National Assembly that should clean up the budget, or the budget should go back to the executive? And I am of the opinion that the National Assembly is not the one to clean up the budget, because it is not its responsibility to clean up the budget. It is the responsibility of the executive. So the budget has to go back to the executive, and they need to clean up that budget and bring it back for passage, for deliberation, and subsequent passage by the Senate. Now you ask the question, how does it affect the passing of the budget?
Yes.
At the moment there's no budget, because if you brought this document and then the document disappeared and reappeared with figures redistributed, and now even those redistribution, they don't add up. There are questions. We saw the health minister saying, I did not prepare the budget.
Even Lai Mohammed
complaining, another minister saying, yeah, it's okay, leave it as it is. They're saying to you, some things are not wrong, are not right. You're saying, leave it as it is. No. As far as in the mind of Nigerians, there is no budget before the National Assembly. So there is nothing for deliberation in the first place. It has to go back, and they need to clean it up, tighten all loose ends, and ensure that, okay, what he did not say, now you have fired some people.
Yes.
So will you now correct? So you are firing them for an error. That error is still in the document.
This point you made is very succinct, because what it tells me is that no matter who the president is, if the system remains in place, we will still be where we are. Whether it's Goodluck Jonathan that is president, whether it's Muhammadu Buhari, it doesn't matter. We need to focus on the system. Otherwise, we will still be talking about these issues in another 10 years.
That is what it is playing out. I mean, that's what we are seeing right now. I was very happy when I heard that statement from the president that a template was being put together. I was very excited, and I was looking forward, because really there's a problem with the system. Every right-thinking citizen would agree that there's a problem with the system that our government and our governance structure runs by or runs with. So for us to have a meaningful change, that system must be recalibrated.
Even if it's recalibrated, some people say the system is not the problem. It is the people that man the system that can't come with any honesty and transparency to the table.
Good. Now, when we talk about a system, most times we are looking at something that is inanimate. The people are a part of the system, because the system does not run itself. People run the system. So that's why it's been argued. What reorientation are we carrying out to ensure that the new system we want to run is being appreciated by everyone in the system, where every civil servant personalizes, for instance, the war on corruption, where it is not you looking for who to catch.
It
is the individual watching himself to catch himself. See, until that happens, how many people are you going to catch? For instance, you know, we were talking about the 23,000 ghost workers. And I heard, maybe it was a slip of tongue, or maybe she was quoted out of context, the finance minister saying all 23,000 ghost workers have been handed over, or will be handed over to the EFCC. Maybe she wanted to say the names.
Well, I think now the qualification was that at least the data of one of those names has turned up in 20 accounts alone. So I think what she was trying to say was whoever owns those biometrics will be handed over to the EFCC and the security agencies.
Yeah, but that lets you know how deep this issue of corruption has eaten into the fabrics of our society. And that is why the way to deal with it is not just from top down, it's from top to bottom and bottom to top. Everybody must be involved in it. You must get everybody involved so that we are all working towards one goal, to have a corruption-free country, a corruption-free Nigeria. Now, because for me, that is what has come to play in the budget. Imagine a president presented a budget.
Yes.
Who was the man that recorded that budget?
Who had the audacity?
On whose instruction?
Who had the audacity?
So for me, those are the names we want to see.
Yes.
Nobody can go to the Senate or to the House of Reps to pick any document the president has submitted without the knowledge of the presidential advisor on legislative matters. So I'm not saying they are the ones,
yes,
but the point is we want people indeed to be held accountable. We don't want the small fries being punished. We want to see those big names who actually had a hand in it. And for me, like I said before, the president should immediately recall that document, put a team together to look at this document again. Take into cognizance the concerns that have been raised. Nobody has said he is responsible. We are saying maybe he did not know. Now that he knows, actions must be taken. People must be made to face the music, and the writing must be seen to be done. While that is being done, I am still thinking that they should manage well the crisis. And when I say they, now I'm talking about the APC, should manage the Saraki crisis well, so that it does not suffer double jeopardy in the leadership tussle in the National Assembly. You are only going to say where it is not done anywhere, it is not done. PDP managed Tambuwal.
Yes.
For the 4 years, they managed it. If PDP could accommodate Tambuwal, PDP concentrated on governance and did not allow the Tambuwal distraction. So why should the APC allow Saraki to become a distraction to them? I have not seen anything that the Senate has done that has been critical, as it were, of the current administration. The errors in the budget are too fundamental not to have been pointed out. If the National Assembly members had not pointed it out, members of the civil society organizations would still have pointed it out, because they are in the forefront of making a case for why this budget should go back to the drawing board, and we should have a budget that can really work. Don't forget, there were also issues with the budget.
Yes.
Remember the 6 trillion naira, you intend to borrow more than 2 trillion, and the president of the IMF has come to say, forget about loans from us.
Yes.
And now you are thinking you could now go back to the World Bank, or who are you going to be borrowing monies from? And looking at where we are today, do we need to be borrowing? Why can't we have a budget that we can finance?
Without having to borrow.
Without having to borrow a loan that we'll need to service with as much as almost 30%. The fact remains that these things we are pointing out, it is with the understanding and commitment that the president needs help. He's a human being. He has his limitations.
And he's not a Superman.
He's not a Superman. So these things may have happened without his knowledge. That is why they are being pointed out. Rather than some people see it as an attack on the presidency or on the APC. No. I'm not attacking the president or his party.
Yes.
All I'm saying is, Mr. President, something is wrong somewhere. Please fix it. How could you explain? I may be wrong, but when he mentioned the 500,000 teachers that will be recruited, everybody was excited, because the educational system has been a thing of major concern to many of us. I believe that the education system in Nigeria today needs an overhaul, and that it is one critical infrastructure that we miss out as a people. When people think about infrastructure, they are quick to think about roads, the bridges, the airports, electricity, and the rest. But I believe that education remains the major infrastructure deficit that must be fixed in Nigeria. Just see it this way. If you build the roads or the bridges or the structures and the people are not sufficiently educated, those structures will go down. The maintenance culture will be so poor, and there is no telling what can go wrong. So when we heard that 500,000 teachers were going to be recruited across the 6 geopolitical zones and they were going to be evenly distributed, we were excited. And then to now see 500 billion. I'm not a budget historian, neither am I an economist, but my simple arithmetic, I did a calculation. I saw that we'll be spending 1 million to recruit and train just a teacher. Mr. President, look into this budget. Something is not right.
People are talking about the sack of Goodluck Jonathan's appointees, and I'm saying that, can anyone begrudge a ruling party from wanting to assert its authority. After all, we know that these positions in the ministries, departments, and agencies, these are the positions that are used to reward the foot soldiers within the parties, those who contributed to making sure that they won the election. In fact, I think the president left it too late to take control of those MDAs. What do you think?
There are two angles to this issue. One is what you have explained, how that every ruling party, every government in power would want to reward loyalists, people who worked for the success of the party at the polls.
Yes.
And as such, these individuals are appointed to fill in some positions, whether as ministers, special advisors, special assistants, heads of government agencies, parastatals, and so on. But you know as much as I do that that is one of the bane of our society, why we are not able to develop as a nation. Because people are not being appointed on the basis of merit, but on the basis of political patronage. Meanwhile, in more developed climes,
yes,
we see people serving different administrations because the emergence of one administration or the success or otherwise of an administration at the polls does not in any way affect that individual's position, because his position is mostly constitutional, they carry out their functions, and they are not involved in the politics.
In other words, you would like to see President Buhari appoint somebody, perhaps from the PDP, if that person has capacity and is competent to occupy that post.
Certainly, that's what I want to say, because in that case, you're having the best, and it is also going to help your administration. Because when you appoint people on the basis of political patronage, they become a problem to you. When they underperform, you are not able to take action against them. You are not able to assess them the way you should, because in the first place, their appointment is on the basis of political patronage.
Yes.
What we would want to see, if you have to do stuff like this, get the best. And okay, now when you're going to appoint them on the basis of their political affiliation,
yes,
or support, why won't they be involved in politics by the next elections? That is why when they build up to elections, these are people who are supposed to face governance, are supposed to carry out their functions in their departments, in their agencies. They leave what they are supposed to do to start mobilizing support for the candidate. And that is why it's not going to change. By 2019, we're going to see the same thing. And if this party should lose the election by 2019 and another party comes in, the same thing is going to happen. And who suffers? The country suffers. The people who are coming will not want to use the cars the people who were there before used, because we just saw with the amnesty office, the new retired brigadier general says, oh, the cars that Kingsley Kuku was using, that the maintenance the maintenance cost will far outweigh the cost of procuring a new one.
So it was cheaper to buy new.
It was cheaper to buy new. So now, if he leaves, another person comes, it's cheaper to buy new. So it will always be cheaper to buy new vehicles. And don't forget, the funds are no longer as huge as they were. The revenue is shrinking. And as a government, as a people, our economic management skills should change. And we should begin to, I'm not saying you must leave somebody there. If it's good, it's good. And this is just to serve as a caution for those who are coming, that if you do what others have done, you are going to end up the same way. Now, there's another twist to it. My general friends who were the DGs and heads of these MDs, what were they waiting for?
You mean since May 29?
Didn't they know this day was coming? They knew. Why not resign and let the man tell you, no, stay, I want you? Why wait until you're watching on TV? Why must you wait to watch your sack on TV?
Yes, but can't we take it from the other side, that should it matter if I'm good at my job, why shouldn't I remain as the DG of the National Orientation Agency, for instance? Why should I be removed because a former president of another party appointed me? Again,
some of these agencies, I can tell you that there are a couple of them that were not affected. Some were actually reappointed. So I don't think it is because Jonathan was one that appointed them.
Right.
Don't forget, this party also ran on a philosophy. They are bringing change.
Yes.
Maybe they have assessed these guys over the last 9 months.
Yes.
And they've concluded that these guys cannot
come on board
add
that
value,
change.
that
Yes.
change program, as it were, and then these guys maybe cannot do for them what they want. Maybe that's why they are being dropped. I know of some that were reappointed. I mean, they were appointed by the Jonathan administration. Their tenure expired, and they were reappointed by the Buhari administration. You know, the CBA governor is still there.
Yes.
You know, so I can understand some people who are still occupying their position. Maybe these ones were found wanting when they were put on the scale.
Yes.
You know, to weigh their contributions,
Pros and cons. Yes.
you know, I really look forward to a Nigeria, just like we are making a case for a Nigeria where it should not matter where you come from, it should not matter what religion you practice. I mean, your faith should not matter, your tribe should not matter. But what should matter is your credentials. Can you take this country to its next level? Can you take this state to the next level? That is what should matter. We are also hoping that over time, these are the critical institutions of government that we believe should not be politicized. People who head them should not be appointed on the basis of political patronage. They should be people who can add value, people who can bring something to the table and make a difference in that sector. We are looking forward to many more appointments. I'm aware that the president has about 6,000 appointments to make. So by the time we are getting there, we hope that these guys who will be appointed will be able to deliver the goods for Nigeria.
Join us again after the break. So what is 60 Minutes with Angela all about? It's not an interview. I like to think it's a conversation between two people making the news, people who are in the news, and those who become the news. And the whole idea is to inform, to educate, or to clarify, as the case may be. It is an art getting people to answer the questions that everyone is thinking in their minds. And that's what we try to do on 60 Minutes with Angela. I ask all the questions that everyone's thinking about and no one wants to voice. All the questions you always wanted to ask. You get those answers on 60 Minutes with Angela. Every week on this station, 60 Minutes with Angela, getting answers to every question you always wanted to ask. Welcome back. My concluding moments now with Sylvester Ebhodaghe, the publisher of National Daily Newspaper and National Standard Magazine. Now, this headline, militants target Amechi. Why?
They are all the same. They are from the Niger Delta.
Yes.
But I think clearly most of them are not pleased with the transport minister because of what they believe to be his role in, as it were, undermining what they consider a gain that the region had made with the establishment of the
Maritime
University
yes.
in the region, where he came out with a clear statement that the university be cancelled, how that nothing was on ground and the money appropriated, as it were,
yes.
for the varsity had been stolen, that nothing was done.
Is that true, that nothing was done?
But we carried out a fact check,
yes,
and saw that to be untrue on the part of the Honorable Minister, the former Governor of Rivers State, that indeed a lot of work had been done as far as that project is concerned. And I think this is where we have to look beyond politics. It's something that is a positive for the region. And
does the region need another university? We have universities already in the 6 states of the South-South region and the 9 states of the Niger Delta region. Rather than set up a new university, a lot of people also felt that the monies used to start up new universities could have been pumped into existing ones to improve upon them.
I actually think that we do not have enough universities in Nigeria, looking at our population and our desire to have an educated population.
Yes.
So as far as the literacy level is today, we cannot say we have enough. However, those who are saying that is because of the mutual distrust, where they do not trust that monies appropriated for those projects will be used for the purposes for which they have been appropriated. And I think that is the major challenge.
Yes.
You must also understand that you don't have to keep putting funds in those old universities. Some of them are the way they are, and there's not much that you can really do by trying to bring in those funds. They will be funded adequately.
Yes.
The existing universities deserve to be adequately funded, but it does not in any way undermine the need for new universities to be built across the country.
Yes.
Because we have a huge population that is underserved. Because if you look at the figures from JAMB every year,
yes,
you'll understand what we are
There's
doing.
always a shortfall.
There's always a shortfall. There's always a limit to what the existing universities can take. And there's always another 1,000% of that number that are not able to gain admission into universities. I do not agree that new universities should not be built. In fact, even if the current administration want to double the existing number of universities, I do not think it would be out of place.
The present Transport Minister, Rotimi Amechi, who incidentally is also the former governor of Rivers State, did he give any reasons as to why they were scrapping the Maritime University?
I think essentially what he made us understand is the fact that there was nothing on ground to show that anything was happening and that the project was a fraud. You know, that to me was what was being given or being spread as the reasons behind the scrapping. But going physically to that locality, you see that there are physical structures, because that is the first thing you do. These are not structures you put up in 2 months. They must be magnanimous in victory. We still see the bitterness of the last political dispensation affecting our developmental efforts in this new dispensation. And as long as we have this carryover, we're not going to be able to make progress. We should put those things behind and deal with the issues. If we're going to have a university in that region to serve this purpose, what he must now do is to make sure that he does what the previous administration did not do, which is to see to it that every kobo that is released for this project, if X amount of money was budgeted and released, check the level of work done. If there is a differential, then call the anti-corruption agencies into it to look at it and ensure that all the funds are recovered and that they are channeled into the purpose for which they were appropriated in the first place. Again, beyond the Maritime University, there are also other ancillary issues which are at play. Why the militants feel that Amechi is
not serving the interests of the people of the Niger Delta. What are these reasons?
Is the issue that the former main leader, Tompolo, is having with the government of the day. Many of them believe that Amechi is one of those fueling this issue, that is head bent on ensuring that Tompolo's wings are clipped, because he was one of those who helped the former president to actually control effectively that region. They also felt that, again, some other ex-militants, now whether to call them ex-militants because they still engage in activities that you don't know whether to call them ex-militants or they are still militants. But some of them who are loyal to certain interests have argued that the former administration gave more attention or prominence to Tompolo, and that they all had struggled and fought for relevance. At the end of the day,
only one man
was recognized or benefited the most. Now, that is neither here nor there, because it depends on if you are for Tompolo, you will argue against that. But if you are for those guys, of course, you want to stand by what they've said. And those same guys are the ones that are said to, who are loyal to some other interests, saying, if we can clip that guy's wings, don't worry, we'll be here for you. Because I still feel that the waters in the Niger Delta should be allowed to remain as calm as it is. When that region was burning, we knew what it cost our country.
Are you saying that going ahead to prosecute Tompolo, for instance, will bring upheaval into that region? In other words, one man can still hold this country to ransom?
It's not about one man. You need to understand what's going on there. It's not about Tompolo. It's about what it cost us to achieve peace in that region. Are we ready to throw away the baby and the dirty bathwater? I do not think so. There are other ways to bring, if Tompolo has committed any offense, if he has committed any crime, the law is there. The police has said, okay, we are looking for him. But before the police launched a manhunt for Tompolo, after the last order, the court warrant for his arrest, we knew a lot of young guys in his community were being arrested. At random, they're just picking them. And tension was already
Very high.
Very high in that area. And some of the leaders of those communities had to send a delegation. They said, please, Mr. President, call your soldiers to order, because you can't beat a child and tell the child not to cry. Now, we are not saying one man is going to hold the country to ransom. But remember how Boko Haram started. Remember how even the Niger Delta militancy started. Yeah. Imagine what it eventually cost us, or what Boko Haram menace is costing us in the Northeast. Now they've gone beyond Northeast. They moved into Abuja. I mean, we are fighting that on one hand. We are spending so much money that could have been used for developmental purposes are now being used to prosecute a war, out of which we just found out several billions of that was shared by certain people.
Yes.
Do we want to go back to where we're coming from? We should make progress as a nation. If that one man is going to bring about a major issue, the government is smart. Like my friend Budgetary would say, softly catch a monkey. Like he says, So there's a way you can still get this guy. Without the way they are going about it now, there's going to be a major problem in that region. Saying to the government of the day, please, at the moment, don't trouble the waters of the Niger Delta. Leave those waters as they are, be more strategic, and prosecute your war on corruption in a more systematic, scientific, and dynamic way. So as in trying to achieve one thing, you create multiple problems that will be difficult to deal with later on. I understand some things that are happening now. I mean, the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources has moved in, also trying to bring some guys close, because he understands that those waters need to remain calm, because the economic situation of the country is precarious right now.
You think that, would you support the indictment and prosecution of the former president, Goodluck Jonathan, now, giving all the revelations we've had in the last 8 months of this administration?
Again, this is not about individuals. If a person has committed a crime, let the person be investigated. And if those who have investigated him or her have a case against that individual, they should charge the person to court and allow the court finish the matter. That is the way it is, whether it is Goodluck, whether it is whoever it is.
Yes.
That is what should be done. I'm not going to say whether at this time they should call Goodluck. Now, I don't know what the ICPC or the EFCC, what they have on the former president. He doesn't have immunity right now.
Yes.
So there's nothing stopping them from asking him questions.
Yes.
Maybe at the appropriate time. Like the EFCC chairman did remark the last time, that so far there's no reason to invite the former president. I may be wrong, but I think that was what was said at some point.
Yes.
That what has been said so far, they don't think that the former president has a case to answer right now. But if at any point in time they feel he does, I think with who we have seen him to be, he will not hesitate to answer their questions. Not just under the Jonathan administration, even administration before his. Again, that's where people seem to have a problem with what is happening right now. They're saying, so why don't you want to go back to administrations before the Goodluck administration? What about this Goodluck administration? And that is a burden that the current administration is having to deal with. Whether it likes it or not, that burden will be there. That question is being asked. And that question will have to be answered at some point. Because we just saw with this budget issue that there is a systemic problem. The system did not begin in 2011, neither did it begin in 2007, neither did it begin in 1999. It's a system that has been. And for us to make progress with the war on corruption, one, I've said, if the laws are not helping the war on corruption, let's get back to the drawing board. Get your first-class lawyers together, put a bill together, send to the National Assembly, get them to pass it and sign it into law. And then let the agencies of government who have the responsibility now have an instrument to work with, to prosecute this war successfully. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself people accusing you of this and that, and you'll be having a hard time trying to explain. Meanwhile, you can do something better.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Ebhodaghe, for coming on the program today with me.
Thank you so much. I want to commend you for what you're doing. I enjoyed myself being with you here, and I really wish you the best, because you're doing a whole lot to ensure that Nigerians are sufficiently educated, that they know what's happening. You have very, very good programmings. You've brought some of the best, to your show to educate Nigerians on a whole range of issues. And I really wish you and your program and your team the very best.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ebhodaghe. And we'll be back. We'll be glad to have you back in another 3 months. And thank you for watching. I'm Angela Ajetomobi.